conveying of that information to the client. I would argue that that's probably the more important part of the inspection is how we convey that information, because based on my report, I can make any house look like it's falling apart, right? Like I could give you a home inspection report right now and you'd be like, oh my gosh, like this house has so many problems. If you buy a car, right, you're like, oh man, no one has this car. I never see it until you start driving that car and then you see
You
it
know what it
everywhere.
reminds Michael, when we had our first kid, we went to the ultrasound and they're like doing these checks. Like now we're checking to see if the baby has autism. Now we're checking to see if the baby has some sort of like debilitating illness that's going to cripple it. I'm like, oh my goodness, is my baby healthy or not? All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Big Hitters Podcast. I'm joined by a friend of mine from Rise Up Kings, Michael Craycraft. Michael has a really cool business. He's got a home inspection business, amongst other things. I think he has a couple things going on, and has a fairly large team. And wanted to pick his brain because this is not a business that I understand or know a lot about. So I think it's going to lead to a fascinating conversation. Michael, my first question is always the same. Tell us the story of who you are and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, my name is Michael Craycraft. So we're in the inspection industry. So I started in the inspection industry 11 years ago, so 2014. My background is in construction. So I worked for my dad when I was in high school, summers of high school, and then through college. So he's been a contractor longer than I've been alive. So he's been in the contracting space for a long time. So I worked with him and kind of did everything from the general labor up to, actually building some stuff and doing all the things. So got a good knowledge there. And then I went to school for business management and did some sales jobs there for a little bit, did some management jobs. But then was kind of, as we ended up moving to Texas, my wife and I was doing some management job, running some valet crews, but I was like, man, I don't know if this is for me. So we were actually selling our house at that point. And my realtor was like, man, have you ever thought about, based on your experience, have you ever thought about inspections? And I hadn't at that point. I was like, I've never even, other than getting an inspection for that house, I was like, I don't know what this is either. So started looking into it, went back to school, got my license in about 3 or 4 months, did most of it online. And then I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh crap. I think, should I start my own business? Should I? Cause that's kind of the model that they sell in inspection school is they're like, be your own boss, start your own business. But I was like, oh man.
There's an inspection school.
There is, yeah. So in Texas, not all states are licensed, but in Texas is one of the most heavily regulated inspection states. So contractors in Texas are not licensed, but inspectors are. So heavy liability, and so you have to be licensed through the state in order to do a home inspection here. But we're also in Colorado, and Colorado is not.
That's so interesting because Texas is more conservative and Colorado is more liberal. I would think that Colorado would be more regulated on that front.
Yeah, they're really on the environmental side of things.
Yeah,
very heavily regulated, but home inspections in general, not heavily regulated. So if you think about it, it's really interesting that all states aren't, because it's such a huge purchase for people. And, my mindset was always like, okay, why would I want to become a home inspector? And it wasn't just to have a job, right? Obviously that's part of it because I needed a job and I need to make money. But my focus has always been like, I wanted to be in the middle of another person's journey. And what other journey to be a part of than like the largest purchase that most people will ever make in their life, a house. And it's a really interesting journey to be in because most people don't know what they're doing inside that journey. So how we've built our company is based off of that. So one of our core values is clients first. And that doesn't mean that the client's always right, because that's not always true. What it means is that we're inserting ourselves into their journey and we're putting their journey first, and making sure that they have enough knowledge and enough information to make an educated decision on whether to move forward with the house or to not. Because that's probably, I would say, people's biggest fear about buying a house is, man, I want to buy something that I don't know anything about, and I move in, there's all these problems, and it's like a lemon, basically. So like that is our role in that, is making sure that they have as much information about that house as possible. So that's always what has driven me, is it's really been a servant leadership attitude of, man, how do I serve our clients in that way? And sometimes we don't get to see the results, but I have to trust that role is probably one of the most important roles in that entire journey. So because the real estate agent wants to sell the house, right? They want them to say yes, right? And we're really the only third party in there that, I don't care whether they buy the house or not. I just want them to be knowledgeable enough to make the right decision.
This conversation's kind of came at a weird time, because I think I clicked on one home inspector on Instagram who was posting like stuff about that, some of the like horror stories he's seeing. He was in like Arizona or something. And I guess I'd never thought about what all goes into a home inspection. Yeah. But having talked to a lot of builders, I know they're under a lot of pressure to build the thing and sell the thing, right? Because they need to get it off their books, and they don't make money until the thing sells. And so I feel like maybe I'm understanding the home inspector is like maybe the last step that can potentially get in the way of that. And if you don't do a good job protecting the client, it kind of create this friction potentially in the process, but you're just trying to protect the client, right?
There's a lot of friction there, right? Like there's like this unspoken battle between real estate agents and inspectors, and builders and inspectors, because there's like this, like, oh, we're against each other. But ultimately, I believe that we're all out, like, we want to have a good product for the client, the homeowner eventually. And I believe builders and real estate agents have that same mindset. Now, obviously, they're a lot more incentivized than the inspector is. They make a lot more money than we do in that case. But I have seen a lot of inspectors without that mindset, where they go in and they say, oh man, the builder stinks. Oh, the real estate agent is just trying to get you to sell the house, and we don't work together. Where we've been extremely successful is working more alongside the builders and alongside the realtors as, hey, we're not against you. Now, we do have to give the client the information, but we also want to educate the builders. And because we also know that the builders they're under a crazy amount of stress. And they're trying to get that house finished extremely quickly and get it off their books. And we want to be the next set of eyes for them to help them, because, whenever I've talked to a lot of project managers, they have like an entire street of houses. Yeah. And for them to be at every house at every second of the day is impossible. So if we can just come in and we're not trying to create more work for them, but we're trying to assist them in, things that they may have missed because they weren't at the house 100% of the time, and that's also in alignment with protecting the client, right? And making sure that they're getting their expectations met of, hey, it's a new house, like it should be new. Not falling apart. So, but there's a lot of inspectors on social media right now, and there's this vibe where they're just throwing the builders under the bus, and there is some truth to that kind of stuff, but there's also the other side that you just mentioned, where the builders are just trying to get those houses done and get them off their books and run a successful business as well.
That's funny you mentioned that. That is exactly what this guy in Arizona I'm following does. He like literally finds, the stuff he points out, I'm like, okay, that is really, really bad, But I would imagine that kind of antagonism doesn't really go well for your reputation.
It doesn't help the industry, right? Because then the expectation becomes, oh, then I'm going to hire an inspector that's going to badmouth the builder and make sure. And there's a lot of lawsuits right now with builders and clients based on some things that happened after the fact. And I think that's kind of where the industry is going a little bit. I think it's smart for some inspectors to build their reputation off that, finding that, because they get the business out of it. We've just been more successful going alongside than against, for sure.
So anybody I've ever known in the home inspection space, there may be like a 1 or a 2-man band tops. You have kind of a larger operation, not to toot your horn, but you kind of have quite a few home inspectors. So talk to us about a couple things. Like, one, how did you scale? And two, like, what's the scope of the size of your team, and how did you build the team that you have?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so we're the largest inspection company in Texas, and then we're top 3 in the nation privately owned. So there's a couple other privately owned. There's one in Colorado, one in California, that we kind of go back and forth from like 1 to 3. But I have 80 inspectors. Majority of those are in Texas, and then I have 1 in Colorado as well. So we're looking to expand kind of statewide, but it's systems and processes, and I think what I figured out really early on is that people look at this job, like even like I mentioned earlier, I didn't know what a home inspection was when I first got started. And I think sometimes the perception of what a home inspection is completely different depending on who you're asking, right? Like, they think people are just going to come around with a clipboard and be like, oh, yeah, that's good. But I mean, we spend multiple hours in these houses, and testing everything and putting these houses under a stress that they should be able to handle, that will then show us problems to let the client know about. So we're putting these houses under a lot of stress. But what I figured out really early, I'm a systems and processes guy, and I can process anything. So like, I built a process on how the house should be inspected in a certain order, which is a little bit different than the industry.
I don't know anything about this space, but what's different about it? If you don't mind sharing, if there's no secret
so a
sauce,
lot of times, a lot of times so our system is based on the flow of water. So we always start with the flow of water. So we'll go upstairs to downstairs and then inside out. Most inspectors are going to start on the outside and go in. The main difference is the outside in. There's not a right or wrong way necessarily. I look at it, and this is something that I've really been leaning into from Rise Up Kings, actually, is there's not necessarily a right or wrong way. It's effective and ineffective. So I'm switching my mindset to like, what's more effective? And what's more effective is following the flow of water, because I catch more things, and I can be more efficient, and I don't have to backtrack as much. So we can do a much more thorough and more efficient time-wise inspection than the opposite way. Because if I do it the opposite way, go outside and then inside, technically, if I run all the water second, I then have to go back outside to make sure the water didn't flow to the outside, because water always goes down. It goes the flow of gravity, right? So it goes down and then it will go out.
And water is what causes all your problems, probably.
Water is the enemy, essentially, right? So we want to make sure that when we're running a bunch of water and we're putting a bunch of stress on the house, that we're going to be where the problem occurs. And if I go outside and then I go inside, I may miss where the problem will actually be seen. So ours it goes that way. And then the other side of the inspection that especially inspection tools don't really talk about is the conveying of that information to the client. Because I would argue that that's probably the more important part of the inspection, is how we convey that information. Because I can make based on my report, I can make any house look like it's falling apart to someone who doesn't know what they're looking at, right? Like, I could give you a home inspection report right now and you'd be like, oh my gosh, like, this house has so many problems.
That's true. Yeah.
Which is true, but it's also not true, right? Like, it doesn't have to be true, because a lot of that stuff is stuff that we see every single day, that even the place that you're living in now probably has those things that you walk by all the time that you don't even think about. But we're going through it with this fine-tooth comb to expose those problems. And it's kind of like the if you buy a car, right? Like, you're like, oh man, no one has this car. I never see it until you start driving that car, and then you see.
You know what it reminds Michael, when we had our first kid, we went to the ultrasound, And they're like doing these checks. Like, now we're checking to see if the baby has autism. Now we're checking to see if the baby has some sort of like debilitating illness that's going to cripple it. I'm like, oh my goodness, is my baby healthy or not? And I feel like that could be kind of like that with the homes. It's like, oh my gosh, there's a leak or something. I totally get that. Like, how you convey that is incredibly important.
It's extremely important because like most water leaks are extremely small, but left unattended to, like they can become much bigger.
A big problem. Yeah.
But I can also do that with my words, right? It can be very small, and what it may lead to may be bigger, but what I focus on is the big thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, this house is going to get flooded. But not yet. If you fix the problem now, that's not going to happen, right? So we also process and we teach our inspectors how to convey the information. So we actually have what I built, like a framework that when you're delivering in the information, and the framework is extremely simple, but it's extremely relevant too. So, and it adds value. So it skyrockets the value of the inspector and delivers the information in a way that they have something to compare it to. And then we give them a solution. So the framework is 3 parts. So it's, here's what I did at the inspection. So here's what I was looking for. And then here's what I found. And then here's the solution or education about that thing. So essentially what I'm doing with that is I'm giving them a baseline of like, here's what bad could be, right? So if I'm looking at all the plumbing, here's all the things that if I found all these, it would be really bad. So then when I deliver the information and I say, well, but I found these smaller things here, then they're like, oh, well, that doesn't sound nearly as bad as what you said it could be. So now it doesn't, even though I told them the information, it doesn't sound as alarming because they have something to compare it to now, right? So essentially what I have to do is educate you first on what the inspection is, what I'm looking for, and then I can tell you what I found so you can compare it. Because right now I could tell you, hey, that door doesn't latch right. The outlet over here is loose. The cover behind me is cracked. This wall over here is a little bit misshaped and out of level. Like, the more of those things I tell you, the worse the house sounds. But all that stuff is in every single house. Yeah, and it's really normal actually. But the way that I frame it and deliver it to you can make it sound completely different. So when we're dealing with real estate agents, obviously their number one concern is, well, don't kill my deal. But usually how an inspector kills the deal is they just overwhelm. I always call it hitting the client with the bad stick. So I come in with this huge bad stick and I tell you everything that's wrong with the house, and I'm just beating you over the head with it, right? And it hurts after a while, and it gets really overwhelming. And then I'm like, all right, enough. Stop hitting me. We're not buying this house. But all that stuff was just kind of normal and expected. Yeah. So, the way we deliver. So we have a inspection. Here's how you perform the inspection framework, and here's how you deliver the information framework. And we train our inspectors, which I actually did a presentation about a year ago in Florida, and I was talking about this similar thing, and there was about 45 guys in the room, inspectors in the room. And I was like, okay, raise your hand if you have an inspection routine. And everybody raised their hand. I was like, raise your hand if you have a walkthrough or a summary routine. And no one raised their hand. But then I asked, well, what do you think is the most important part of like how you don't kill deals? And they're like, well, how you talk to the client. Okay, so then tell me why you don't have a routine for what you would consider the most important thing. Yeah. So the focus is wrong a little bit, right? So that's what we do. I think that separates us is like we teach our inspectors how to deliver that information so that people keep coming back to us. And I think it's been probably the number one attribute on how we've been able to scale is that we've had organic growth and we've had those processes. And I have 80 inspectors total. So like you mentioned, most of inspection companies are 1 to 5 man teams. And we've been able to just build this massive team of great inspectors that all do that process. And I think that's been the key, is been able to find the right people. And I would say not every home inspector is a good fit for us and we're not a good fit for everyone else. Because it's finding the right person. And then the thing is that our core values have to be the leading the conversation. So that client's first mentality that I spoke about earlier has to be like our people have to believe in that. Because if they're just there to make a paycheck, it's going to run out at a certain point. Because we have to keep people coming back to us and we have to keep serving other people. Because I believe that's what we're essentially called to do, is serve others. And that's a huge.
I love that. I love that when there's purpose behind the company vision and values. Michael, what sticking points do you feel like you have right now as a business? So every company, no matter what size, has some sort of like barrier or friction or sticking point. Like, what do you feel like it is right now for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I think, like we have, I like to say that we have big company problems, right? Because we don't have in our industry, we don't have a lot of companies that we can go to and say, oh, let's mirror what they did, because we're the largest. So like we can't go and to a 5-man company and say, oh, how are you dealing with making sure all your inspectors are doing the same routine, right?
Yeah.
Because at 5 inspectors, it's extremely easy. So that's one thing, is just adherence to the process. Like there's a lot to keep up with, and making sure that how do we QC that many inspections? So on our service side, how do we QC that many inspections? And then on our operations side, it's really there's a couple things that we're really focusing on that we're just trying to figure out, is how do we integrate AI into our operations, and how do we use that to not replace people necessarily, but how do we get our people to adhere and use AI? Because so many people are skeptical of it. How do we get them to use it to make themselves more effective?
Well, my ears are burning, because that's literally what we do.
Yeah, I know that's what you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that we're really focusing on right now, and we just get so many calls. So I would say, how do we make sure that we're spending the quality time on the phone to make sure that the clients are getting exactly what they need, and they see the value in which we provide. And it's not just about price, right?
Yeah.
Because like sometimes you're like, because what we battle in the inspection industry is the perception of what an inspection is. Well, they're like, Michael and Andrew are both inspectors, so they must be the same. They're going to come through with a clipboard and check all the same stuff. Well, it's not true, right? Just based on experience, based on the state, based on, but like our state has certain standards, but you can't go below those standards, but you can go as high above it as you want. So we go way above those standards, and we use some specialized tools, because we're also an engineering company and an environmental testing company. So we do things in those realms in order to generate more leads, obviously, for our additional services and provide more value to the client. So it's figuring out how do we adhere to those processes on the actual service side, and how do we get our clients to see that value on the phone, where paying a little bit more, they're getting an exponential amount of value compared to the competitor. So those are probably our 2 sticking points. Is, man, selling the value on the phone is extremely difficult, right? So
then let's talk about AI for a second. So you clearly know that it's something that needs to be integrated. What parts of your business do you feel like are maybe the most ripe for AI to, like, not take over, but just help? Like, what elements of what you do is tedious, monotonous, and could be automated?
Yeah, a couple things that we're focusing on right now is we have a guy internally that he's building some AI bots for us. So in our training side of things, where we've built some AI training tools, to where our inspectors and our salespeople can go on to ChatGPT and literally do training modules through it, so they can gain more knowledge. And even on the one we're working on right now is our walkthrough. So me and this guy, we kind of collaborated and we put our walkthrough framework into the GPT bot where basically they're going and they're asking, or the program's asking them questions, and based on their response, it'll give them feedback based on how I would give them feedback. Or, hey, you didn't stick to the framework. Here's the recommended. So it'll help train them. So training is a huge thing for us right now on that. And then also our call rate. How do we take some AI and make sure we don't miss calls, even if it's just getting general information so that we can call them back. Because also in the inspection industry, right, based on our experience of, well, if this person didn't answer the phone, I'm just going to call the next person, and whoever answers the phone first is going to get the business. So that happens quite a bit. So if we can make sure that no calls are missed, then we have a chance to, obviously get more inspections. And I've got 80 guys that are full-time W-2 employees that don't like sitting at home. So
yeah, I hear you. Well, Michael, any parting thoughts? Anything you want to share? Something we haven't talked about that fires you up? Any ruck stuff? Anything that's on your mind? Business principles? Anything at all?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, something that I'm really been focusing on right now is because I just went through Life by Design. So it's the refinery or awakening, and then the Forge, and then Life by Design is kind of after that, right before Coaches Academy or right with it. And what you do in that one is you go through belief systems. And so what I've been doing is a ton of coaching on, man, what is actually getting in the way of our people, getting to that next level? And what it's been coming down to is like, man, there's something that's blocking them. There's a belief system that has served them well up until this point, but it's got them here, but it won't get them there. So we've been really diving into, okay, what do we need to let go of right now in order to get to the next level? That it may be a negative thing, but it also may have been an extremely positive result or a belief that got us this result, but it's holding us back to get to the next one. So because we're making a big jump we went from 10 million to 14 million last year. And our goal this year was from 14 to 20 million. So a really big jump in revenue. And so we've really had to, as we've gotten about halfway through the year now, we're a little bit short of that $20 million goal. So now we're digging into, okay, what is getting in the way? And it's not just, okay, we didn't answer the phone calls but it's like, man, what beliefs do I have that may be holding me back from leaning into this conversation, or having this difficult conversation, or why am I holding on to this person when they don't need to be here, or who do I need to get in that position to push us farther? So we're just really diving into the human aspect of it right now. And it's been really cool to see the transformations in people. So a lot of the things that I've learned from my rough journey, I've been able to now institute in my company, to where it's really cool to just see those transformations, and people are like, oh man, this has been helping me in my personal life too, which has been cool. So it's been good.
Michael, if people want to learn more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have greenworksinspections.com. We have all of our services on there. They can check out our website there. I'm personally on Instagram and Facebook, so you can just look me up. M Craycraft on Instagram, and then just my name on Facebook, Michael Craycraft. So
yeah, if you go follow him on Instagram, you're going to see all the amazing photos you just took in Crested Butte. So right over here in my backyard. Yeah.
There's a lot of inspection stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of inspection stuff. There's travel stuff, and then there's jiu-jitsu stuff, because I train jiu-jitsu too. So
nice. I love that.
That's what's fun.
Well, man, thank you so much for coming on the pod, opening up a new conversation about a different niche and industry. That was really fun. Don't go anywhere because I want to chop it up. But yeah, guys, thanks, Michael. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.